Hello, everyone. Today we have two brilliant IMGs with us, Dr. Khan, who scored 274 on CK, and Dr. Minhaj, who scored 276 on CK. And I am sure you might have guessed what is the topic of today's video. It's all about CK. We will discuss what resources they used to study, how much time did they take, and what about the mock assessments they did. So, without further ado, I will request Dr. Khan to briefly introduce himself and Dr. Minhaj to briefly introduce herself, and then we will begin with the questioning. Thanks, Dr. Khan, for joining. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Dr. Shahzaib Khan. I am graduate of Dow Medical College, batch of 22, and I have given all three of my steps, waiting for the math cycle to be good. And I'm really excited to be here. An absolute pleasure to join you and Areeba, of course, who I have lots of good step to CK memories with. So looking forward to a great podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. And Dr. Minhaj.
So my name is Areeba Minhaj, and I'm a graduate of Dow Medical College, batch of 2021. And I have taken all of my steps, and I'm waiting for the match as Shahzaib. So just working as a cardiology medical officer right now. So keeping myself busy. Thank you for having me.
And I would like to mention that both of these folks, they are extremely busy because working in a private hospital or in a government hospital in Pakistan as a medical officer is a very tough job. It's just like you are doing training without like a formal structure of training, and also you are not getting a lot of money. So I have my highest respect for both of them. Anyhow, so we'll start with Dr. Minhaj. So Dr. Minhaj, CK, the first question. How much time in total did you take to prepare for CK?
Okay. So the thing is that I was doing, when I was studying for my step two exam, I was at home and I was not doing anything else. So my duration was, I was totally dedicated to my exam. And I took it right after my step one, and I took a total of 4.5 months for my exam to study the whole step two.
Okay, so 4.5 months. And Dr. Khan, what about you?
Yeah, it was pretty much around the same time. It was between 4 and 5 months. I was a house officer at that time, so I was doing my house job, taking like at least like a week maximum off, just before the exam for the final preparation. But otherwise, I just kept the house job going and I just tried to manage it with it. So for me, I think the ideal time, from what I have assessed, not just with myself, but with other peers of mine or other mentees I have worked with, it is certainly between 4 and 6 months. That is all that you need, especially if you've given enough dedication every day. It does not need to be the whole day being consistent, but just putting in chips every day. That works.
Okay, so Dr. Minhaj took 4.5 months while she's solely studying without doing any job. And Dr. Khan took almost the same time, 5 months, but he was doing house job. And again, for the viewers who don't know what house job is in Pakistan and India, after graduating from med school, there is 1 year of mandatory internship in order to get practicing license. So 3 months of internal medicine, 3 months of general surgery are usually mandated, and then the 6 months are elective. So, Dr. Khan, were you during your elective rotation, or you were doing the medicine or surgery rotation when you took it?
So it was the elective rotation. I just planned it out this way that my elective medicine and the elective surgery would just come together, and between that time, I would just plan out my step two. So that's what I did.
Okay. And you also took your step one like almost 5 months prior to CK?
Yeah, almost the same time.
Okay.
End of yeah.
Okay, so again, 4 to 5 months, that's what our experts are saying after they took step one. Now, a question for both of you. Have you talked to people who took actually CK prior to step one? And if you know some people, what was their experience in terms of duration of study? Dr. Khan.
I personally have no such encounters. There were people who were thinking to do that, some people who were just looking forward to that idea, but not went on to the execution level. So I won't be able to tell that, but from my inference, it's the step one help that actually comes is just because of your world experience. Pretty much that's it, because the knowledge is entirely different from step one and step two. So maybe if I have to just assume, I would give it a guess of around 1 to 2 months extra if someone has not given step one.
Understandable. And Dr. Minhaj, did you encounter any such people?
So actually, I think someone DM'd me and they told me that they took step two before step one, and it takes a longer time, and the scores are usually less when people take step two CK before their step one.
And even during, again, for viewers, I did all of this exams and everything 7 8 years ago. Even during my time, some people, what they were trying to do is they were trying to take CK before in their final year, because they thought that the things they will be required to know for CK, it would be more clinical. But even at that time, the majority of people were taking step one before. Very good. All right. So, Dr. Khan, the second question we have is, what are the study materials, whether they were books, online resources, question banks, that you primarily use to prepare for CK?
Okay, so that's a great question, and that is some very common one as well. Everybody wants to know the resources, and back in our time, or usually still to this dates, it will be like UWorld, UWorld, UWorld. That's what everybody will tell, that it is the primary resource, which is pretty much true to a great extent, because UWorld for step one and UWorld for step two, I believe, are very, very different in terms of how they prepare you. UWorld step one does not prepare you to that great of an extent as UWorld step two does, because it has got that entirety of learning and exam assessment, all of that ingrained within it. But certainly other resources are very helpful, and I found two resources that I would highly recommend to anyone who is pursuing step two, which is Amboss, first of all, if they can afford a subscription, or if they want to just have it in a group form, because the main benefit of Amboss is actually Amboss library, that for clinical knowledge is extremely good. And the reason it also helps is because it is such a handy tool to just have it on your phone. So anytime you just want to refresh a topic, revise a topic, clarify some things on a topic, just search it up and go it straight to it, and it will have all the information that you need for step 2 CK. So that came in very handy. All the entire months I was just doing that alongside my UWorld. Then there's a book called White Coat Companion, which is by BNB. It's like a summary book, a concise book, which I would say covers at least 70% of the step two content, not entire, but whatever it does cover, it does a really, really good job at it. And I had a great experience with it, because I am somebody who is a bookish person. I do want to have a text form in front of me that I can just read and go through. So for somebody who's like that, that book is great. And I just used it in a similar fashion, like step one first aid, where I would be doing UWorld. I would be doing that topic in the book itself and just seeing what are the missing links, maybe do some annotation, maybe make some notes. And that's pretty much it. But other resources that I know of and I've not used, maybe Areeba might shed some light on that as well. For example, Divine Podcast is there. There are videos out there, like BNB Step 2 videos are out there. So these other resources also exist, just did not use them. Those three
Okay.
were, I think, more than enough for me.
Basically, what you're saying, that UWorld and Amboss. My understanding is, so UWorld is a question bank with, of course, explanation that helps you. So Amboss is also basically a question bank with a library that
Yeah.
in the form of like text. Okay, because I remember again back 7 8 years ago, the idea was that some people were doing Kaplans for medicine, surgery, OB, and stuff like that, and some people were doing like the master the board books, and then they would quickly do first aid and then go for the question bank. So what you are saying is, right now the approach which you at least use is that starting from UWorld, Amboss, and doing some divine podcast lectures, but not like doing a per se textbook like Kaplan or Master the Boats. Okay.
Yeah,
Dr.
that's absolutely
Minhaj. Dr. Minhaj.
So I think that what you said is right. I started away with UWorld because I think that UWorld is as much a teaching tool as it is an assessment tool. And then we had a group of friends and we used to do AMPOS together, the Q bank. And I think it really helped because everyone has their own thinking capacity and their own mindset. And it really puts everything into perspective that you're not only thinking like you do, but you're also taking into account how other person would think. So solving questions, solving ambers with friends was really helpful. I also solved CMS forms, the latest two of all the subjects. They're very basic and very straightforward, but I just did it for the sake of doing them. And then I did not use any book other than FA here and there. And obviously, Amber's library, I think, is the best library for Step 2 CK because it's very concise and it's very handy and you can just access it anywhere you want to.
Okay, so you basically did read the first aid for CK a little bit and Amboss Library, and you will, but you did not actually read Master the Boards or Kaplan or anything.
Yeah, I didn't read the first aid for step two. I actually started reading that, but I didn't find it much helpful. So I don't think that anyone should do it. I did when I was really stuck in questions and I was not getting the percentage that I wanted to in UL. I started the DNB videos, but I did not really find them very helpful. So I just stopped it either. Then I was also making Anki cards alongside, and then at the end of like after 2 to 3 months, I think that they were very repetitive and I did not really understand. So I just stopped that too. I think that start game you have to really reconsider what is working for you and what is not working for you, and you have to adopt to the different styles that you think that are working for you. So it's something that's very variable and versatile, and you have to quickly adapt.
Yeah, I think that's a very Dr. Minhaj, you make a very good point that there can be general guidance for things that people can do, and then there can be things that you tailor for yourself. Just give me a second. All right. So, Dr. Khan, you had something to add?
Oh yeah, sure. So Ariba mentioned a very, very important thing that I would love to talk more about, which is that we did an Amboss question bank with a group of friends, and whatever she shared, that is reflecting a very, very important principle, I believe, for step 2 CK, which is repetitive learning. Clinical learning is all about repetition. That is something I strongly believe in, something I discovered for myself. It's not something that you do once and you just remember it for the entire duration of your time. So any kind of repetition, whether it be through discussion with your friends, whether it be through actual cases you are working on as a doctor, if you're working, whether it be through any kind of resources that you use. So the more you repeat clinical concepts, the more you come across those algorithms multiple times. That is the key to step 2 CK, if I have to just put it in one word. So that I think is very important to know.
Dr. Khan, you make a very good point that it also basically your point, what you're saying is that the group study method is a really good thing, especially for CK, because again, in a group study, not only you motivate each other, but you learn something new from each other, and then you repeat the same thing again and again, because just by learning from the book or question banks, you may forget it, because again, we have to admit that some of those things which they test in the exams, they are pretty much like cramming. So, and human mind has only a limited ability, irrespective of the fact how intelligent you are. We only have a limited ability to retain stuff. So that's a very good point. Thanks for that. So, Dr. Khan, I would ask you the second last question. Tell us which mock exams or the assessment tools you used for in order to prepare yourself for the final exam, and how was the correlation of those mock exams with the real exam in terms of similarity or difference in the questions and in terms of score?
Sure. So, as we all know, there's two common assessment tools. One is NBMEs, one is the UL self-assessment. For step 2 CK, I believed that NBMEs were a little further away as compared to the actual exam, where it came to step 1, it was a little different. But step 2 was NBMEs were away. But they still helped. They still help because any kind of assessment prepares you for that timing, prepares you for your nerves, prepares you for that question solving ability. And they also help because the NBMEs for step 2, I believe, were very, very good in biostatistics. Biostatistics is something that is not heavily tested in step 2, but obviously when you're going in for an exam, you want to be prepared with the best version of yourself. So biostatistics, NBMEs covered very well. So I did NBME 9, 10, 11, and 12. By my time, I think those were the only ones available. Now I think there are more recent ones that people should always go for, as long as time is not compromising them. And UL self-assessment is excellent. It is like the ultimate tool that you want to assess yourself with, especially because of its score prediction and because of its closeness to the exam. So I would say the closest to the exam would be UWorld self-assessment. I am unable to recall which one was closer. They both are pretty much good, both the self-assessment 1 and 2. And they both predict the score pretty well. That is what happened to me, and I think it happened with Areeba as well with the score prediction. And then there's a thing called Free 120 that one eventually gives just to get used to the interface. That's not exactly an assessment tool, just like a final just touch up. But overall, these two self-assessments are ones that we must do. It's a must do thing.
Okay. So how long before your exam you took the two UWSA and what were your exact scores?
Okay, so I always do assessments. I do not have a fixed time. Maybe it was 1 month before max when I started doing these things. And what I advise to everybody is that always take self-assessments when you are done with your preparation at least once in all of its entirety. Because there is a concept that people go about with that they finish certain percentage of UWorld and they try to see where they are at. I personally don't see a point in that because
Mhm.
the way you are going to assess yourself best is when you are actually prepared the best. So if you have not done 100% you will, if you're not completely prepared, so there's no point. But if someone likes that approach, they can. So 1 month before I started, there's another question that gets asked very often: what order should we follow? Whether we should be giving these NDMEs first or UWorld self-assessments first. So there's no exact order. Everybody has their own preference. In the end, they're all tools, but the closer you give UWSA2, especially nearer to the exam, the better it is because obviously of this the quality. If I remember right, if memory serves me right, the score I got in UL Step 2 assessment was 269. And in the first assessment was probably 266 or 267. It was around that. It did not cross the 270 mark. So it happened with me in step 1 as well. I think that they're harder than the actual exam. They over prepare you for the exam, which is actually good. You want to go score better in your exam. So that's what happened to me.
All right. And Dr. Minhaj?
So I think that since we both took the exam like a few days apart, so for me the same NBME 9, 10, 11, 12, which were the latest ones, and then UWSA 1, 2, and 3, 120. I think that I was scoring 265 and 260s in all of my NBMEs, and I'd never crossed the 270 mark in any of my self-assessments, neither in UWSA 1 and 2. So I was taking NBMEs. I think I started taking NBMEs after like being done with 70% of UWorld because I wanted to book a date ASAP.
Mhm.
And then I started UAW 1 when I was done with 100% of UWorld, but I had not done my market corrects. So I
Mhm.
think I agree with Shahzaib here. I think I we should save the UWSA ones because once you're not sure and you're not doing well, then you do not have any other self assessments to assess yourself, and then people really are in a dilemma most of the times that we have done all of our self assessments. What to do now? We're not scoring well, and everything that has happened. So I think you should save them for when you're prepared the best. And they underpredict, but they're very good to build the confidence that you need for the exam day.
Okay. So again, from both of you, what we are getting is that you will self-assessment is the best tool perhaps, and it may underpredict a little bit because I remember in step three, you and the other applicant we had, he both of you mentioned that UWSA actually underpredict by at least 15 to 20 or even more. But here it seems that almost accurate, but maybe 5 to 6 under. So that's good to know. So Dr. Minhaj, the last question is, how was your exam day in terms of pacing your questions, running out of time, and any tips and tricks specifically for the exam day?
So my exam was really easy, and I don't know, but I think maybe it was just easy for me, or the exam the exam that day was very easy because it was very straightforward. And most of the thing, one thing that I would like to mention here is that a lot of things that were asked in my exam were actually from the things that I had studied in my MBBS and not from Google. I mean, like not most of it, but a few. Like I remember, I've done like Davidson, I've read Bailey and Love for Surgery, and a lot of times I could actually go back and think, okay, this is something that I've read, and this is a concept that I know from the what I had studied back then. So I think that really helped. A strong basics from your medical school is always a good thing to have, and I think Shahzaib is also a very brilliant student, and he would agree with it. Because I think because everything that is formed on that foundation helps you to get a better score.
Mhm.
Exam day, it was very, once you're in your exam day, the adrenaline rush is just enough to get you through. For me, time was not a problem. And it was easy. I think my exam was really easy.
Okay, and you did not find it difficult to complete the exam in time or running behind in any blocks?
So actually, when I think that even in my modules and uh, MBBS exams, we've been paced to do things very fast, and we've been doing these things very fast, reading questions very fast because we're always short on time. So I think that prepared me very well for what the exam had to offer. And my question scenarios were not very big. They were max like two to three lines or four lines or five lines, not half pages as many people say. I think everybody has a different experience. My experience was that my stems were very short and they were nice and good and easy.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And Dr. Khan?
Yeah, so just like Ariba said, a lot of things were similar experience for me as well. Firstly, that the point is that when it comes to timing, if I believe that if anyone can do a random UL time block in managing its time, they will never struggle in the actual exam because the actual exams questions are shorter, they're more straightforward, they're easier a little bit. And it's definitely manageable in the time. Time is never an issue. The issue is what people face. What I have seen at least is the nerves, the anxiety on the actual day. And if you're able to manage that, I believe you're already done with a lot of your hard work because all of the rest is just something you've already done before. It's all known to you and it's just execution. So that is an important element. You need to be calm. You just need to manage whatever, for example, the break timings you need to manage, you just need to do it in a calm fashion. No point in rushing, no point in panicking. If you don't know something, skip it. That's what I believed in. I would always skip it, and that would also actually help the timing because if I'm struggling on a question for too long, if I just stay stuck on it for too long, then the entire rest of the block would be compromised. So skipping it, coming back to it later, that helps the block. And my exam day was again a similar experience. I found it very easy as compared to what I have been facing in the U World or even prior in any other kind of assessment. Even in AMBOSS, it was an easier exam, that is for sure. And also because it was our second time, because we have the first time we went to the center was step one. So after the best because you get used to that environment, you just get used to everything around you. It just is more easier to execute on the day. And the 9 hour Goliath that they call it, it does not seem that way. You have that adrenaline in you. You have to make sure that you take a good amount of caffeine, whatever works for you. And it all goes well. In the end, you're all still not exhausted. At least I was not exhausted on step two. I might have been exhausted by step one ending, but step two was different.
All right. Again, very good discussion. And I think the one of the reasons to make this video is that step one is just pass and fail now. So on one hand, it helps people. They can get done with it quickly, just pass it, not worrying about score. But on the other hand, that IMGs were scoring really good, 260, 270, even up to 280 in step one. And CK, that was making their application very attractive in front of the program directors. And again, a lot of sometimes people ask me or tell me that program directors or programs look entirely on the score. Why is there's such a huge obsession on the scores? The thing is that if I am a program director and I see an MSPE from non-US country and I'm just used to US, then scores are the only objective thing which I can find in terms of standardized evaluation, because we all know that MSPE can be different in different countries. So there is no, even I mean while interviewing these this year, I have been seeing MSP. They are so different, even from different med schools in US. So scores would be then the main standardized objective measure which program directors have, and especially now that step one is pass fail. So CK score is very important, and if you can score well, it really helps you to get more interview calls, and it not only helps you here but also when they are making the rank order list, it helps. And third thing, I will tell you, some people may not agree, when you are applying for fellowships down the line, your step 2 score, your step 3 score, they even consider those scores there. irrespective of the fact where you have done your residency from. I have seen that, and I'm talking about cardiology, gastroenterology, oncology, pulm critical, the most competitive of the fellowships. So thanks a lot, Dr. Khan. Thanks a lot, Dr. Minhaj, for giving us your precious time. I hope that this video helps all the USMLE aspirants who are preparing for CK. Thank you.
Thank you.